New year, new laws. It seems like maybe a month ago, maybe a little longer than that. We talked to Brad Tietz, Vice President, Government Relations and Strategy for the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce, to be generous about a law that I think is completely insane in regards to paid time off for part-time employees. Is it in effect? What's it going to do to businesses? Good morning, Brad.
Morning, Steve. Thanks for having me back on.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Brad, I worked 3.5 hours yesterday. Does this new law qualify me for 6 months off?
Good question to start off. It actually does not anymore because one of the things that I was going to mention is I think we spoke about middle of November, right as the ordinance, the comprehensive ordinance was about to pass. City Council, about a month after, a little less than a month thereafter, passed a trailer or follow-up ordinance. And one of the changes to in that trailer ordinance was changing the definition of covered employee. So you might remember, and as part of our conversation last time, the original ordinance said that the employee has to work 2 hours in a 2-week period at any point during the year. There were some concerns expressed by the convention industry, like I had mentioned before. So the ordinance now applies to employees who work for 2 weeks in a 4-month period during a given year.
That's still, by the way, that's still incredibly generous. Incredibly generous. A 4-month period is 16 weeks. So if you work 2 weeks out of 16, you qualify. That's amazing. Correct. that was the compromise.
But for 1 hour of time off, right?
Correct. Well, I guess 2 hours, 1 hour paid leave, 1 hour paid sick leave.
Right.
And I wouldn't characterize it as a compromise either.
Well, yeah, but you understand what I'm saying. I mean, if that's that was the step down, that was the thing that needed to be done to move it forward. Look, bottom line is businesses are getting penalized here. Your business is the Chamber of Commerce. What are businesses saying, and what does this do?
Sure. And before I get into that, the trailer ordinance did delay the ordinance by 6 months, so it takes it from January 1 to July 1 for an effective date, which from our perspective should have always been the standard. Trying to force businesses to comply with it in less than 8 weeks at that point was just insane to us. So. The proponents of the ordinance are calling it as another, give to the business community, and we just reject that premise. But there's a 6-month delay, the definition of employee changed, and then they also put in there, again, they'll claim it was at our request, but a pretty meaningless notice and cure process. So if you are alleged to have committed a violation, you have an ability to cure that. What they did was put in there a 16-day notice and cure, except it really only applies for the next pay period. So if you commit the violation allegedly on day 14 of your pay period, you only have 2 to 3 days to fix it. And I think more egregiously, the notice and cure is only in effect for 1 year. So it sunsets after a year. So that was the trailer ordinance. And then you also had a number of other things happen since our last conversation. One was rules did come out from the Chicago Department of Business Affairs and Consumer Protection. We are reviewing those with our members. We have more time to comment on those now, but there are a number of clarifications and challenges that I think we're seeing with the rules. And something else that's important to note is in the last month, Cook County actually revised their paid sick leave ordinance to create their new ordinance. And all it really does, by and large, is mirror what the state just did. So there were 3 big things, but to answer your question about how our business is feeling about it, I think there's 2 camps. One, there's the small businesses who are going to have to upgrade their policies now to meet the new city requirements. And I think what we've seen is, it's a lot of restaurants and retailers, like mom and pop types, and that are really, struggling to try and figure this thing out. And then there's the businesses who already had paid leave policies in excess of this, but they're going to have to be, while their policies meet or exceed the benefits offered, they still have to comply with a number of parts of the ordinance, or you're facing a lawsuit. So, I would say we've heard an uproar from small businesses since our last conversation. It's really been fascinating and enlightening.
There's Brad, there's a thing that goes on here that there's just a disconnect that I don't understand, where you'll hear people go, oh, yeah, well, you just want people to make money. You don't care about employees and how hard they work and how hard it is to get by and how hard it is to pay bills. Here's the part you have to understand, and I encourage you, start a business. Start a business and see how tough it is to actually make money. Understand that profit margins for small businesses are very small margins. And they're not getting rich, they're getting by. Mm-hmm. So when you put this kind of onerous government BS on the backs of small and medium-sized businesses, you're going to have less of an ability for them to stay in business, and therefore less of an ability to hire you and pay you anyway. These people aren't your enemy. These are the people that are employing you.
Yeah.
Right. No, I mean, we we agree, obviously. And that's been one of the tougher things here. I think, throughout the past, 4 or 5 months, even when we disagreed with prior administrations, they always understood there was a need for a balance between policies like this and business and economic development. And I don't think you're seeing that anymore.
So Brandon Johnson's calling it a step towards equity in the workplace, but really the employers are just going to be passing those costs on to the consumers that are coming into these small businesses.
They literally don't have a choice.
Exactly. So when you say the covered employees, does that include, it's part-time, does that include temps and paid interns when it comes to other businesses?
It does not apply to interns, but it does apply to temp workers, and that's going to be another thing that's pretty complicated to figure out here in the next 6 months. But yeah, no, I mean, we agree with that as well.
Brad, for businesses that are not aware of how to contact the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce or citizens who want to do the same, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, I would just go to our website at chicagolandchamber.org. Or reach out to any of our folks and get involved. Reach out to your local chambers as well. They're on the front lines working with small businesses as well, and we have what we call our Chamber Leadership Academy. It's over 120 neighborhood and suburban chambers. So we're constantly in contact with them as well. So there's multiple ways to do it. But yeah, no, it's going to be an interesting next few months. I would say that there's the county ordinance, like I mentioned. We're working on comments on the city rules, but the state law just went into effect 2 days ago as well. So we're going to have a lot of experience here with some never-before tried paid leave policies in the country here in the next few weeks and months.
Good luck and keep up the fine work. We will be in touch.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
That's Brad
Thanks,
Tietz.
Brad
Brad is the Vice President of Government Relations and Strategy at the Chicagoland Chamber of Commerce.